Gold Seal, I had a 90% pass rate.
All right.
Good for you. That's awesome.
Now, a common question I hear, and sometimes while we're on a flight deck, we're on a long flight, and the captain will look at me and they find out about the podcast because I tell them, and they say, "Oh, my son or daughter or my nephew or niece are interested in getting into flying. What advice can you give them, or what direction should they go?" And it's kind of a hard question to answer because every individual student is unique. They have their own set of circumstances. But one of the common questions is, should they go with one of these flight schools that has all G1000 or now the G3000, or should they go steam gauges? I know what my opinion is, and I know what Rob and Roger feel about this. What do you think?
I'm 6-pack all the way. I think that you should learn with the basics first. And, I've heard of these flight schools. They teach in the G1000s, good on them, but you're also going to pay for it. And at the end of the day, you need to learn how to fly. And I've had people that learned on the G1000s and then they try to get into a standard 6-pack and it's so hard for them. Like they know the stick and rudder aspect of it, but they get so hung up on the avionics.
Yeah.
And, I get it, but at the same time, so I just this last fall put a Garmin 650 in the Warrior. Up until that point, like I said before, a standard 6-pack, dual VOR, DME, and an ADF. Okay.
And no autopilot.
That's all you need. That's all you need.
Yeah. No autopilot.
Yep.
I did all of my instrument training in that airplane. Everything was hand flown on a 6-pack. I did my CFII training on that airplane. No autopilot, standard 6-pack. Nobody can track a VOR like I can. I jokingly say that. I'm sure there are people that are very proficient at it, but and then I put that 650 in there, and that opened up a new world of opportunity because now I can do RNAV approaches. In fact, when I first got the airplane in, I'm pretty sure even on VFR days, I was like, I'd like the RNAV approach, please, just because I could legally do it, but it opened up the opportunity for learning those RNAV approaches or being able to teach it. But I still take students back to the standard 6-pack. I really when I'm flying in an Aero tonight that's got a GPS, but I'm going green needles in that airplane, a good amount of time because I need you to know how to use it. What does green needles mean? What's the difference between it? How do you track a VOR? Let's do a VOR check. You need those basics. And you're not going to get that with a G1000.
Right. Yeah. And I'm glad to hear you say that because I believe that the stronger the foundation of your home, the more you can build upon it and the taller you can build it. The foundation is always in the most rudimentary principles of aviation. They teach this from your first day as a private pilot all the way through a legacy airline wide body aircraft. When things get rough and things get out or off the rails, always bring it down to the lowest level of automation.
Click. Turn it off.
Click.
Raw data. Aviate.
Eyes out the window.
Forget the navigate, communicate for now. Aviate.
Aviate.
And to this day, if you start reading accident reports, which I know is your thing.
That's my thing.
You see this time and again where the pilots were overloaded. We've heard of the magenta line. We've heard of all of the complexities that it brings into the cockpit. Just on the last show, I was talking to Captain Elmore, who's 20,000 hours plus of aviation. 6 aircraft carriers he was on in the Navy. Unbelievable guy. So I asked him the same question. It's like, do you feel that all this technology that's bombarding us with apps and EFBs and tablets and glass cockpits, they do bring in a level of situational awareness. They do bring in a lot of information. Sometimes that information can be overwhelming and we have information overload. Do you think those distractions outweigh the hazards that they pose?
I mean, absolutely. Sometimes number one, you have to know how to use them. More importantly, you need to know how to use them when things go wrong. If you don't, you're going to get hyper focused on on the problem, and you're going to forget to aviate. So like, those electronic EFBs that you talked about, the automation and everything, they are great as a backup to your aviator skills. But at the end of the day, you still have to have those skills. Another pet peeve of mine, if I may add to my soapbox, is when people try to buy high performance airplanes and then learn how to fly in them. Again, I'm like, bring it back to basics. Like, I know people like there's flight schools out there that teaching people how to fly in a Cirrus. I'm like, really? Like, what happened to the 150s? What happened to the 172s? I mean, admittedly, I learned how to fly in a 172, but a 172 and a 152 are fairly comparable. Get yourself a basic Cherokee, or a 172 something. Like a 182, it's just going to take you longer to learn how to fly it because now you're adding in more complex systems. So like you said, build that foundation first. You've got to crawl before you can walk. You don't try to run before you can crawl.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It's funny
advice.
you say, I'm sorry, Rob, go ahead.
No, I'll say very good advice. That's so true. Everything that you said.
And you said you go and take every opportunity to fly those green needles. We do that mainline as well. I'm going to Puerto Vallarta tomorrow. It's my third time there this month. And the controllers, there's a language barrier and they'll give you direct to a fix or they'll give you, do you have the airport? All right, you're clear to visual. Puerto Vallarta has an MSA around the VOR at 11,200 feet.
Awesome.
The runway elevation is 23 feet. So, the first time I went down there, the beginning of the month, the captain goes, hey, we could, it's your leg, do whatever you want. I was going from LA to Puerto Vallarta. He was like, they're going to clear you probably for the visual, but as you know, there's terrain. You've talked about it. You briefed me. But why don't we just do the VOR DME2 runway 22? It's the FMS autopilot. All you have to do is monitor it all the way down to final approach fix, and then you can click it off and land it. And it's an arc. It's an actual DME arc. You have to hit your altitude and speed restrictions, and you descend in the arc to final. And then you turn final. Once you turn final, you can either let the autopilot take you down to MDA, or you can hand fly it. And the view of the mountains and the canyons and the valleys. I mean, I'm sitting there monitoring, but I'm like looking around going, this is awesome. Look over there.
Yeah.
Everything is awesome.
Now, I could have easily have just click, chop it, drop it, configure it, and get it on the ground. No problem. I'm not a hot dogger. I mean, if I want a hot dog, I'll go, get a flight in the pits with somebody who's, qualified, take me up and let's see how long I last. But when I'm at work or flying just for leisure, that's it. I enjoy doing the things that we don't normally get to do. I have training coming up, and I know Rob's in the same boat. It's like, hey, I haven't done a GPS approach in a while. Do you mind if we request a GPS, even if it's visual? Sure.
Yeah.
And then shoot the whole GPS approach. Keep current. Yep.